um, in that book, I remember I was thinking she was really cool, and I asked my dad like, "Oh, what can she do?" And he described her as like, "Oh, she's like invisible woman, but her powers are dark." And I was like, "Oh,
You went to it. You sold. You
so
sold.
you got me."
Your dad definitely knew. He
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
knew. All right, hello. We are back for another episode of another relaunch. That's a lot of anothers, but I like it. Hello, everybody. I am Keenan.
What's up, y'all? I am LZ.
How are you doing today, LZ?
I'm good. It's a nice day out. The weather's been great finally. Again, it's been kind of like rainy and stuff out here, but
Mhm.
finally it's been like pretty nice out. I've been pretty good. How
At
about
least you're
you?
getting At least you're getting nice. So like we said, it was very rainy the last time we spoke. This week has been sweltering hot.
Not that got you in hell.
It's just like it's like every day the high is already like maybe like 93 to somewhere between like 93 and 96. But then DC has horrible humidity. So when you go outside, it actually feels like 104. And then it's just like, it's so nasty. And I'd be walking to the gym. And so I'd be leaving the gym and I'd be like, I might not be able to do this. Call Uber.
Not just taking an Uber a few blocks away.
Cause I'm feeling like legit. Cause I'd be like, it is hot. Like it's hot. Like I'm sweating. And I was like, no. And so I didn't have my hair cut at first either. And so I had all this extra hair on top of my head. It was not a good experience.
Oh, oh
Not
my
at
gosh!
all.
Did you see
But
the Spider-Man trailer?
the movie,
The new one.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
The trailer for No Way Home.
yes, I did watch that.
Are you not
It
really a
was
big
nice.
Spider-Man fan?
I'm not, and it's just really, I just cannot get into him for some reason. And it's crazy because I actually think Tom Holland is a really good Spider-Man, both as
Yeah,
Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
he's the
But
best Peter.
however, I think in him being so good, it makes me realize that I just do not care about Spider-Man at all. I think he has amazing villains. Like I will read like
Oh
a
yeah, his
Spider-Man
rogues
villain
gallery
book
is.
all day, every day. But Peter Parker himself, and
That's fair. I used to read a lot of Peter Parker back in the day. I was kind of like raised on X-Men and Spider-Man from my dad. And then when I got into comics, they started the Ultimate Universe. So I started reading Ultimate Spider-Man, and then that changed into Miles. So of course I kept going with that.
you know,
But then I kind of
I
got
mean, that
off of
makes a lot
Miles
of
when I
sense.
got older, because like as I got older, it was like fucking
Do you
Peter.
think they're gonna let him grow up the way they've let Peter grow up?
That's a good question. Um, I don't know. Probably not, because it's taken a long time for them to even let Peter like be 30.
Really?
You know?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I was like, always like character growing up and aging past them. And I was like, Marvel tends to be really good about like giving their characters some age and like making them get a little bit older. I was like, but they don't do it for everybody. Like, I think about Pack. Power Pack has been like 10 for since their inception.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Um, like young, but then on the same token, you have characters like a Jubilee or a Shadowcat, who have gotten older and like kind of finally formed into adulthood. So I was just thinking about like the newer brand, like someone like Kamala. You kind of expect that she's going to get older, but it's Miles,
I don't know. You
it's
don't.
Moon
You. That's a
Girl.
good point. Like you don't want them to be in high school forever. But
It'll be
we've talked about
interesting.
this before on the show about them having issues with like the teen characters. So
They do.
who
Gotta
knows?
love it. But luckily, I don't think my comics this week had any teen characters, so I didn't have any issue. Oh wait, that's a lie because the first one on the list is Robin number 5. And this comes from Joshua Williamson and Glee Malinkoff. But still, I mean, Damien's different because he acts like an adult.
Right.
So he doesn't count. But no, so in this book we have Damien has been he's on the island that
wait,
is
you read
run
this?
by the League of the. Yeah, you did it.
Oh, I did, but I thought you were out because like there was no more Connor Hawk for you. Even though he was
I said
in
I
it.
was going to finish the arc. I know, that's why I picked it back up. I heard. Yeah, go ahead, talk about it. I forget
Yeah,
this was more anyway. The character.
Yeah, I did like I know I like the Bat Fam a little bit more than you do. And I enjoyed this book. It opens with a Ravager basically being upset about being killed by Respawn, and then these like priests of the Lazarus Pit or whatever are creating the tournament for everybody to get ready to fight. And then we cut to Damien, and Damien is running, and all the Robins have a race to try to stop him because he wants to get back to the island to get back to the tournament, but they don't want him to go. And I thought that this entire like roof race with the team was really heartfelt. I won't lie.
Okay, I was about to say it was really well done. I was actually kind of looking at this as I was reading the book and they were going through and they were like, even when Jason's like, oh, we haven't had a roof race in a long time, and then they do it and they're all just talking and like you really get a sense of, oh wow, like the kids kind of love each other.
Right, and they really like know each other and like
yeah.
The breakdowns. I really appreciated Damien giving the breakdowns of everyone, and when he said, "Oh, I hope Tim isn't in earshot, so I'll say this: he's the smartest one." How Spoiler is the bravest one, and Grayson is the most experienced, and he came up to Jason and was like, "You're the most emotional," and Jason kind of stood there and then hugged him back.
Like, hey, he knows.
True.
Which I feel so bad for Cass and Duke that they were kind of like left out. I know they weren't Robins,
right.
but I do always feel a little bad when they're like left out of like the whole younger family moments.
Yeah, I think
I
remember not Ravagers, Spoiler saying something like, "Oh, Cass would be upset she's missing the tournament."
Yeah.
The name drop was nice, but she could have been there.
So sad. Oh yeah. Well, maybe next time.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed all of that. Then of course he has a whole breakdown with Nightwing, who gives him the bar that he used while he was a trapeze artist in the circus. And on the bar it says like versus the world, and it's all about just like feeling like you're against the world or whatever, and how you have to persevere. It's a really heartfelt moment that I kind of wasn't expecting in this book, but that was pretty cool. And then they get back to the tournament, and it looks like next issue the tournament is going to start. So
finally
for that Mortal Kombat.
Gosh, what was that? 6 issues? This is issue 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm definitely going to pick up the next issue for sure because, like, if there's nothing more that I love than a brawl, I don't know, like.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I don't know what's going to happen. So, like you said, I think this was like surprisingly heartfelt, but it was really well done. Shout out to them. Shout out to seeing Hulk again in an issue. They know how to keep me coming back. So, I'm ready. What would you rate this?
I would give this like a solid 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Okay, I can agree with that. I think the art is still like super kinetic too, and it has like a nice flow of the movement. Again, the roof race was really well done. Like you can feel them like going after each other and like when they're catching up and stuff. Awesome, good times. Shout out to the Robins. Oh, shout out to the Bat Fam. Shout out to DC as a whole. They really got a lot of good books on the dock.
They do. They do. Like, they don't have a clue what the universe looks like as a whole. But like I do feel like I'm reading a bunch of different DC books more than I probably have in a while. So
yeah,
shout out to them.
So and next up is another DC book, and it's Mr. Miracle, The Source of Freedom #4. Now, this issue I think is finally the one where I was fully invested and it clicked on for me. like, I think the first issue I was kind of like rocky on it. The last two have been fine, but I wasn't really sure where it was going. This one, it finally all came together, and I was like, damn, this is good. And it made me sad because this is only not 4, 6 issues, and so now I'm like, oh crap, it's about to be over soon.
Oh, no.
But this issue is basically Mr. Miracle Shiloh Norman. He finally meets Oberon. And Oberon, for those who don't know, is the guy he's one of the new gods. He will always hang around with the other Mr. Miracle, Scott Free, Big Barda, and all of them like that. He also knew the original Thaddeus Brown. This issue is a complete history of Thaddeus Brown and, him back in the 60s and being part of the movements, how he eventually became Mr. Miracle, how he started to learn his own escape tactics. And we find out that he had a daughter. Her name was Rose. As we find that out, Shiloh mentions that his mother's name was Rose, but he never met her because she disappeared when he was a baby. So we finally get all this ROM history. We see that Thaddeus is actually Shiloh's grandfather, and that he left the mother box out. And so when Shiloh was a baby, he was like playing with the mother box, and he made his mom and dad like disappear. He sent them wherever.
Oh,
and
wow.
So like
that's
Thaddeus,
so sad.
right? Like, right? I was like, oh my gosh. And so like. Thaddeus is like just taken over by grief and like sorry. He's like, this was my fault. Like I left it out for them to play. Like I don't know where they are now. I don't know what's happened. I've got this grandson. I got to try and do what I can for him. And we also like learn from Oberon that although he already knows Shiloh, like that's one of the things he mentions. He's like, yeah, I know you. And Shiloh's like, we've never met. He's like, this isn't the first time we met. He's like, there's multiple universes and multiverses and worlds and all these things. He's like, this is like, I know more than just the 3 Mr. Miracles that the other people know. So I thought that was like a nice little link to the multiverse as a whole, showing that whatever's going on, because again, for those who don't know, there's some stuff still happening in like the Future State universe that has that version of Mr. Miracle going on, which I'll talk about later. So there's like a lot of stuff with Mr. Miracle, Shiloh specifically Mr. Miracle, happening in the DC universe, which is really exciting. Again, this story was like another really just surprisingly heartfelt, poignant issue, and I'm like all in with Shiloh now. I really want to see him do a lot more stuff. I actually want him to join Superman's Authority team.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Right? And I feel like Thaddeus Brown, Mr. Miracle, is kind of connected to the Superman universe anyway because he's from Metropolis.
Oh, okay.
So it's like we're already.
Let's wake that up.
Right? I would definitely rate this issue again another strong 3.5 out of 5. Brandon Easton is writing this, and he's just doing like a superb job. Again, I think each issue has gotten better as I've read. This is the one that like clicked for me super heavy. I can't wait for the next 2. I hope there's a lot more going on. Fico Ocio's art is really good. It's serviceable. It's bright. It's colorful. There's a couple times every now and again the faces are a little like, or the anatomy is kind of like, oh, this looks a little like 90s buff. But other than that, it works out very well. Next up on our list, I was just talking about this. Action Comics 1034 from Philip Kennedy Johnson and Daniel Samperi. Now, I know you haven't started this book yet.
I'm going to jump
in. But I'm going to need you to start.
I know.
I have never been so engaged in the Superman story in my entire life.
That's
like,
wild.
It's amazing. So, this arc is all about Warworld. Mongol has sent a bunch of people to Earth to basically kill Superman. One of the people, the black girl that he gets, he takes her to the fortress, and he's like, we're going to help you, we're going to save you from Mongol, but Mongol also sent some other folks down to track her. They get to the fortress, and they kill 2 of the survivors who were with the girl, and he was like, look, I never wanted Mongol to send you. I wanted to come down here to kill Superman. Like, you should have never been able to do it. She eventually, like, blasts them. She shoots some I-beam out and disintegrates them, but she's in there with Lois. And so she grabs Lois, and she's like, they're not going to stop coming after me until I complete my mission, and my mission is to kill Superman and his family. So then we cut back. Okay? She was getting lit. So then we cut back. The Atlanteans found a fragment from one of Mongol's ships, and they're kind of holding it, and that's what like turned people into monsters. And so the government is trying to get the fragment back. The Atlanteans have cut off the trade routes, so they can't get their ships through. So now they're about to go to war. Superman, Supergirl, and John are all there, and they're trying to stop them from fighting. And the Atlanteans and the army are just going back and forth. Atlanteans are like, you need to get out of here. We're going to start shooting you. The army's like, no, you need to open up this gate so we can get through again. Superman is like, everybody, please stop fighting. But eventually they just like start shooting missiles at each other anyway. And so the Superman family is like punching the missiles out the air as they're going. And then Superman gets pissed off and he like does his little freeze breath. And he creates this giant block of ice to block everybody off from each other. He's screaming at people. He's like, is this what you all want to do? He's like, you're fighting over all this stupid stuff. He even says it. He's like, I don't usually get involved in politics with the government and everything like that. He's like, I think that people should manage themselves. He's like, but I'm not doing this. So he goes down to the ocean where the Atlanteans have the fragment. He takes the fragment. Aquaman's down there, by the way, because Aquaman's been investigating. Okay. And Aquaman tells him, because he's like, so Superman comes down there, and Aquaman's like, oh, I figured Bruce would have actually been the one to come down here and try and take this fragment. And so Aquaman tells him, he's like, look, I might not be able to physically stop you, but I'm going to let you know, if you take this fragment, it is absolutely going to change things between us. And next thing you know, you just see Superman flying out the water with the fragment.
I love that.
I was like, oh snap, it's lit. And so they fly off because Superman's like, I'm just gonna take it. Don't come looking for it. Anybody. He flies off. Supergirl's like, I don't think you should have did that. And he's like, well, what was I supposed to do? But they're going. So John finally, it clicks with him. He's like, I don't hear anything from the Fortress of Paradise. Like no machines, no heartbeats, nothing. So they're like, oh crap. They start flying super fast to the fortress. They run back into the girl. She's got Lois. She's like, I'm sorry, I got to do this. They're about to start fighting. The issue ends. It's lit.
Oh.
It's lit.
I bet it's giving that science that I need right now. So I definitely need to jump into that.
I'm telling you, I know you've been very upset with Slott and his Fantastic Four.
Yes.
But the science, the like space stuff that's in here, the family aspects of it, this is like the Fantastic. Again, I think you would love Philip Kennedy Johnson on a Fantastic Four book. Because that's kind of what this feels like, but like interesting.
And that's all I want. So maybe I need to jump into this.
It's like and everybody, if you listen to the show, please like read the Superman. I feel like I say this every week, but the Superman line of comic books is exceptionally good right now.
Yeah.
Action comics, Superman. The Superman. The Son of Superman, John's book also came out this week, issue number 2. So if you're into John or you want to learn more about him, go ahead and pick that up. Superman and the Authority is excellent. Stuff that's going on in Mr. Miracle. The Coroner's great. Supergirl's good book. The Coroner's great. But I would definitely rate this issue a 4 out of 5. Sam Perry's art is like out of this world. I unfortunately think that the next issue is his last before he moves on to something else. But what he's given us is fantastic, and I would not trade it for the world. So pick it up. Next up on our list, we had a new book this week, and that is Winter Guard #1 from Ryan Cady and Jan Bazaldua. For those who don't know, Jan Bazaldua is one of our trans writers. So if you are out there to try and support trans creators, please be sure to pick this series up. Did you pick this up?
I did. I am like a big Darkstar fan. She's one of the characters I actually got into when I was like 10, I think. And we'll definitely be talking about her a little bit later. But yeah, I picked this up for her. But this was actually really good. I wasn't expecting it to be great, but like it was pretty good. I love the whole like Winter Guard and everything over that they've got going on in this. This was really good.
I was like super shocked. Obviously, I picked this up for Yelena. Like, let's call a spade here. And I was pleasantly surprised. I don't think I've ever read too much from this writer before, so I wasn't really sure what it was going to be going into it. But the voices, like, I also wasn't expecting the Captain Marvel appearance in the beginning. Like,
me neither.
I was like, that's a little shock of her trying to find out what's going on with Yelena and the Winter Guard, and then Black Widow pops up, and so she's like, what is going on? Because this is tying into what's going on in the Avengers right now, where She-Hulk has been captured by the Red Room. Mm-hmm. If you are reading that, let me know how it's going. I am unfortunately not.
And I am not either, because that's why when Captain Marvel showed up in this, I was like, nobody set my girl up in this. And they had her interrogating Laynia. I was like, now see, this is a good look. But then it all made sense, because I guess something is going on in the Avengers with She-Hulk, and, you know, She-Hulk is Carol's girl, so... Again, I don't know what's going on. They mentioned some stuff about like her getting captured and tortured, I guess. So I don't know what's going on in Avengers, but I guess that's.
Let me know. I don't really care for the way Jason Aaron writes She-Hulk. So whenever the arc focuses on her, I tend to drop out. But if you are and you think it's fine, let me know. Maybe I'll pick up an issue or 3. And so, you know, we finally run into Widow. She finds Yelena, and she's like, what is your connection to the Winter Guard? What's going on? And so we get this story of Yelena saying what happened when she went to Russia with Red Guardian, and they came across the Winter Guard because someone is tracking down these members and killing them. And we find out it's the character Red Widow. I cannot remember what series she got introduced in, but she had
a randomly Red Widow series, like one shot or something like that before, and like a prose novel as well too, and that was it. Like maybe another random appearance other than that, but that's it.
Jason Aaron did use her in the Blade Vampire arc in the early parts of his run. Obviously, like they're in Russia, she is a Russian like killer, and so she was one of the people who's doing stuff there. So she pops up. There. She's supposed to be like super deadly. I mean, obviously she is super deadly. She's like killing people out here. She kills bear. And so we see her again, and so the backstory we get is just kind of like Yelena and Red Guardian, and they're going up against the Winter Guard. And like I will say that the art in this, the action scenes were fantastic.
The actions were great.
whenever Yelena was moving, whenever Red Guardian was like fighting, what's the other one's name? That's a part Vanguard. Of the Winter Guard. Yes, Vanguard. When they were having their little back and forth. Is it? Mm-hmm. I feel like I feel like I knew that actually. Or maybe come on, Betsy and Brian. I got that. Yes. So yeah, that was good. How did you feel about like the rest of the issue? Obviously, Darkstar didn't get too much to do, but it was nice to see her.
Yeah, I did appreciate that she was able to like use her powers and stuff. That they used her teleportation and stuff like that. I will say that I wish that they were colored dark instead of yellow in this.
Yeah.
But like they've recently been like using yellow coloring in her powers before, but I couldn't tell if they were doing that because her powers are the Dark Force.
I was about to say that does with that
age of darkness.
I don't know, and like that just doesn't make sense to me. Like it's Dark Force energy, you would expect it to be dark. And then, like, I've always felt as though it was a nice juxtaposition between her and her outfit, which had yellow in it. And she's, like, this pale Russian girl with blonde hair. So it was like, oh, okay, now she's got these dark powers.
Yeah, I agree. But for some reason, they were yellow in this. So,
I don't know. Maybe it's just a color error. But,
again, I still enjoyed it, though. I liked all the action stuff. Obvious that a couple of the members of this new Winter Guard were some Avengers knockoffs, like the one guy who was like some god of storms. So it's like, okay, you're basically Thor.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'm actually gonna finish out this run. I know it's a mini series, so I'm definitely gonna check it out and see this whole thing through.
Agreed.
I would give this issue easily like 3.5.
Agreed. Another 3.5. I would give this very solid. Pick it up if you're interested in the Winter Guard, or if you just want to support Yelena. We always love Yelena support over here. And finally on our list we have Black Widow number 10, and this is from Kelly Thompson and Elena Casagrande and Rafael de la Torre. This is your book.
Now, how did you have 2 Yelena books in a week?
So, you know, I was just thinking about this the other day, but I don't know what was going on these last few months where things just weren't going the way I wanted them to go. But all of my favorite characters are back on the rise, and they are back to being in the forefront in places that they need to be. They just announced that new video game, The Midnight Suns. Blade was
right
there.
in the middle.
It was there. He's getting an exclusive skin. We just talked about him last week. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we're back at. I think they were onto something in Loki when they were talking about like the timelines and like TVA and all that stuff. I think the TVA got to work and we are back in the proper timeline.
Okay, things are starting to adjust themselves and get right for you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're there. So we got to see you, Laynia.
Well, maybe you need to go talk to them for myself too, but maybe not for this book because as far as Black Widow is concerned, I enjoy this still a lot.
It's excellent. It's genuinely excellent. I would probably say this is one of a top 5 Marvel series right now.
Easily.
Like
I don't think I've read a bad issue yet.
Okay, and like I think we've talked about this with Natasha. Sometimes a lot of her solo stories can tend to be very repetitive. Like we get the whole spy girl who's out in the world by herself. Everybody doesn't trust her. They are looking for her. What's going on? This is the first time we've really seen her embracing working with a team, having all these other people come in. We see her doing like some investigative work, being a spy, and just letting people into her world, and it's so refreshing to see, and it's so nice. And the characters who are joining her are actually interesting. Yelena, Anya, Spider-Girl, this new girl Lucy is kind of jumping out to be great. The black kid who's helping out now. And then we get a surprise appearance from Kate Bishop.
Right. One thing about Kelly Thompson, she gonna use her favorites in her books, and I love it.
She-Hulk might pop up soon.
Oh, definitely pop up. Does she like She-Hulk? Is she She-Hulk fan?
She loves it. She loves it. She wrote her in A-Force.
Oh, that's right. Oh, then yeah, she's probably coming at some point.
That's her dog. Yes. And she wrote her in that first arc of Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's why I picked it up.
And then right after that arc was the Enchantress arc that kind of like started.
Oh my gosh, when she brings Enchantress to this book, wow.
And then for the Emma Frost fans out there, she also used her like during that whole old arc because she's a big Emma fan.
And she used Emma in Jessica Jones. Kelly's like me if I was a writer.
Okay, that's you excited. They tell you write Captain America, and all of a sudden Bedlam is there.
You know it, like on the side, he's helping. Like, what's up? I got my people. But no, she does it really well. She rotates her cast in and out. I think she realizes that like every solo character needs a strong supporting cast to truly thrive, and she's done that for her. And again, I think the villain of this story, Apogee, who she's building up for Natasha, who's been like kidnapping people and trying to give them superpowers that are killing them, he's actually terrifying. And just all around, the art, again, I cannot emphasize it enough. It's spectacular.
Elena Casagrande's way for action is top tier. I would love for her to be involved in some kind of like the animation department or something for Marvel to get them in shape, because the way that she like really flows, her action scenes are really great.
Fantastic. Like, cannot recommend this book enough to anybody. Yeah. It's just good.
I thought it was interesting that you find out that like Lucy, who they've been kind of helping, she's got these like electric powers, I guess. I assume that she was going to be, I don't know if she has electric powers or if she's like has an electric form or both, basically. But now she's like half stuck through them, so like she has electric arms, basically. And I thought that was a cool way for them to create like a new interesting character without just giving them kind of stereotypical, bland kind of powers, making her a flying brick or something like that.
Giving her the robe treatment. She's got to wear gloves now to touch people, which is like, which is again, like Kelly's building everybody up very well. I'm excited to see more of Lucy. What will be her code name? And honestly, Anya. I've really been enjoying Spider-Girl in this book.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind her actually kind of joining on a full-term basis along with like Yelena.
Yeah, like it's hot. This is a hot group. I'm into
Yeah, I
it.
like that shot of all of them walking out at the end of it too, with Hawkeye,
Mhm.
Spider Girl, Black Widow, White Widow, and Lucy. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, very hot. What would you rate this issue?
I would give this issue a 4 out of 5 easily, maybe even a
Agreed.
4.5. I really liked it.
Um, yeah, no, I agree with that. 4.5. That works.
Yeah.
Okay. But look at that. Those are the comments of the week. Let's go ahead and take a break. Oh, Cable Reloaded also came out this week. So if you read that, let me know because I heard it was kind of like a giant sword issue and it's out Ewing, which all
Yeah, let
sounds
me
great.
know.
But also, if I could just wait for Marvel Unlimited, then I could just do that. But let's go ahead and take a break and then we'll come back.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back for the panel section of the show. And this week, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about one of my favorite mutants, who I feel like she doesn't get too much play because of like her whole connections, but it's Darkstar, and
Mm.
that is Laynia Petrovna, and she is one of the few. I was gonna say few, but that's actually wrong. I was gonna say one of the few characters that can tap into the Dark Force, but clearly she is not because there are quite a few.
Oh, it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. Shroud, Cloak, Silhouette, Sepulchre, Shadow Woman. She was a Spider Woman villain for a
Jeez,
while.
I don't even know half of them.
I think Vanisher can tap into it a little bit. There's a lot like so. Well, little well known fact. I really like the Dark Force powers.
They're
Um,
cool, right?
they're like really hot. Like I used to have such a fascination with shadow powers as a whole when I was a kid. Like I just thought they were like the most interesting. I always think about that episode of Static Shock, and there were like the Little Big Bang. There was this girl. She had like these shadow darkness powers.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I'm a that
I
episode.
wonder
She
if I
was.
can remember the girl. I know there was a guy, Ivan, who he was like
I
the
remember
main villain.
Evon. There was a girl. It was like somebody he had found, or like she had. When I find the girl, I'm gonna let you know. But like shadow powers are hot, so I'm into the Dark Force group.
Yeah, it seems like being able to teleport is always a like extra ability for with the Dark Force connection. Either they teleport with the Dark Force itself and they're making portals, they can teleport through the shadows or something like that. But that seems like another power for them. But Lenaya Petro, I can never really pronounce her last name. Petrovna. There we go. And she is a mutant, a twin. Her brother is the character Vanguard, who is basically he's like the new um, Captain America, or I should say
The Russian
the
Captain
win- the
America.
winter the Russian Captain America. So after they got kind of rid of uh, the one before him, they want to kind of like the
Mhm.
younger model, basically, and went with Vanguard. And Vanguard's abilities are he can like manipulate energy and like make it bounce back against him. Um, I don't know how to describe his powers and not make them sound basically just like Eunice the Untouchable. Um,
He's an ace. He
but
makes a
basically
force
just
field.
like that. you know, um, basically just like that. And but Darkstar is a character who she was introduced with the Winter Guard, and kind of similar to other characters that I like. She was kind of like the villain, although they weren't really villains in the way that kind of my other characters are. They were just Russian. So like again in American comics that just meant they weren't nice people. So
Oh, yeah.
they were trying to take back Black Widow and like bring her back into the Soviet Union, and of course they did the whole oh come back with us, but no we're gonna join you thing by the end. And Darkstar and her brother, I think it was also her brother, they ended up kind of staying with the champions at the time and kind of helping. Now, the Champions was a team that had Iceman on it and Angel. After they kind of left the X-Men and did their own thing, like when the X-Men kind of broke up and were doing their own things. Of course, Iceman was written back then as kind of being into Darkstar, but Darkstar kind of turned him down. She was like, "Oh, I'm not really into it," because she probably already knew. And yeah, so like Darkstar hasn't really had too many comics on her end. My first introduction to her was in like the early 2000s. It's like maybe 10 years old. And there was this issue of X-Men Unlimited where she was on the cover, and must have been a part of my dad's like pull list, because I just remember I have very vivid memories of reading that book, and I remember spilling some milk on it once and like getting some pages stuck. Yeah. And in that book, I remember I was thinking she was really cool, and I asked my dad like, "Oh, what can she do?" And he described her as like, "Oh, she's like Invisible Woman, but her powers are dark." And I was like, "Oh,
you so
you got me."
Your dad definitely knew. He absolutely knew.
Yeah. One of the first things that he gave me to read was Days of Future Present, which had like Fantastic Four cameo in it. And I think like Wolverine was in it and all that kind of stuff. And
I remember that. Okay.
I came away from it. That's how I loved like Sue.
That makes sense.
Yeah. He probably was like, "Nah, of all the characters in this, that's the one you like." But yeah, she hasn't had too many issues in that, because again, she's associated with the Winter Guard, and the Winter Guard usually kind of make some random appearances here and there. They fight the Avengers usually, because I forget his name, Crimson Dynamo. He's a big Iron Man villain. So, and I believe that Darkstar and Crimson Dynamo may have had a thing at one point. So like she was, of course, being his ride or die and fighting Iron Man for a bit.
I mean, I've read a couple of things with Darkstar. Like, I distinctly remember her from those Champions runs. Like, I've read a couple of those here and there. I remember she popped up in Morrison's new X-Men for a little bit in time. Phantom X killed her, but she was...
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up, that's when she died. So she wasn't in too many books, and she got, like, possessed by something, and Phantom X, like, had to kill her. So she's been dead since then, until they kind of recently brought her back.
So, so that's actually when I started kind of getting more into Darkstar as a character, was after she died, because I remember they brought in a new Darkstar. It was like some redheaded chick. And,
yes, her name was Sasha.
Yes, Sasha. And so the Winter Guard is similar to Alpha Flight in that Marvel tends to push them out like every decade or so to see if they kind of work again, but they never really take off. That Alpha Flight was at least a little bit more successful. They had their solo runs, but they kind of fall back into obscurity. So this is one of the times where, oh my gosh, and now they're popping back out again a decade later.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's really crazy. That's how it happens. But they had her coming in, and there was a writer, David Gallagher, who's I think was super talented. He was writing a lot of their stories. So I was following them because I was trying to get more into them. But I remember Sasha ended up dying by the end of it. And then there was another Darkstar that came on after her. And she appeared for 2 issues, but then something happened with her and she died. And that's how the original Darkstar ended up coming back in her body or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was a bunch of Darkstars just dying.
It was what is going on? I was and I was just are they building towards a Darkstar movie or something? What is the brand here? Why are we getting all these girls? But I remember when she ended up originally coming back, and it was okay, this is the Darkstar I actually was interested in from the very beginning. So yay that. And
yeah, I think they were having a hard time trying to figure out how to bring her back, without doing some crazy comic booky thing, until they got to the point of just going ahead and doing a comic booky thing. Because the way they brought her back was, I think they said the explosions of the other Darkstars joined the Dark Force, and then that just brought her back to life somehow. So whatever.
Shout out to the Dark Force dimension though. There's always be an easy way to like cop out of something, or like if you don't want to explain too hard, it's like we'll tie it to the Dark Force because you don't know what it is. What goes on in there? It's like we'll always bring you back.
Exactly, and I do really love the Dark Force powers, and I love that Darkstar is a little bit different than like a silhouette or like a shroud or something because again they mostly are just teleporting, where she is like using like this Dark Force energy to like make constructs and simulate.
She does it. She uses hers very similar to Shadow Woman, who I think you will enjoy if you read her appearance. And she had an arc in what was that? Thunderbolts. Do you remember when they were going after somebody, but like American Eagle guest starred in the issues as well, and him and Shadow Woman ended up like joining forces to fight the Thunderbolts. She was going off to a job interview, and she did like and she ran into them, and so she ends up fighting. It was really good.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to check that out then, because I do really like these kind of powers. I think that she is an interesting character. Oh,
that was the Static Shock girl.
Oh, I do. Yes. I know that character. I don't know why that slipped my mind.
Okay, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I feel like Darkstar is a character that could be really interesting, but I feel like she has a hard time gaining traction because of the ties to like Russia and like the Winter Guard and everything there. Have you ever had any kind of characters that you would like to see maybe brought over and like maybe made bigger like that, kind of like a Sabra or like any other those other kind of characters?
Oh, I do like Sabra. I like Sabra a lot actually. So it's always interesting because I think when we get to a lot of those characters, Darkstar, Sabra, whoever of other countries, they always tend to be political characters. Sunfire, or they have some type of allegiance to their government, and then they get brought over to America, and they don't really ever click as hard. And I just wonder if that has more to do with like just American comics and American comic readers and kind of having an aversion to other countries. Like I have a friend, his name is DeAndre, and he hates when British politics are in his comic books. So like even like he talks about like Excalibur sometimes with me, and he's like I hate when they talk about like the politics of that. He's like, why would I care about that as an American? And I'm like, but I can understand that, but at the same time, I think like you'll enjoy something like Krakoa as a whole, which and the council, which is all politics.
That's
so
politics.
It's like what's the difference of that? But so that's always just something I found interesting because he's not the only one who I know who feels that way. Like there are a lot of people who are like, oh, why would I care about this? So it's like when you get to Darkstar and the Winter Guard and Alpha Flight and all those other things, it's like why would I care about the governments of these other places that I don't live? I find them particularly interesting, but I like politics as a whole.
Yeah, I really find like the whole them versus everybody else aspect of when they kind of join the groups interesting because I would like to see them I like to see them make the decision that they don't like the group on their own, not because that they have to dislike everybody because of their affiliations to whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a Sunfire or in Darkstar's case, she hasn't really had too many issues with everyone. She actually kind of wants to join the hero kind of stuff, or at least she did before she died. But like a character like a Sunfire, who his whole thing was like, I don't even like y'all.
Like I don't bang with you.
Right. But I would like it more if it was because he wanted that decision instead of it being more his country kind of.
With Darkstar, and tell me if you know this or maybe if you, it's just, so I think about like these mutants who have these kind of other power, like magic and her ability to use magic and Namor and whatever he does under the sea. Those aren't their like actual mutant powers. Ileana's power is teleportation, or Namor's mutant power is those little wings on his feet. Darkstar in the Dark Force dimension, because so many characters have their own ties to it, is her mutant power explicitly to control Dark Force energy, or is it something else and she just has a connection to the Dark Force dimension to do that?
Her mutant power is to control the Dark Force energy.
Interesting.
Like her mutant power connects her to the Dark Force energy.
Okay, that's interesting because I think about like someone like Cloak. He was another who has that type of connection, and they've always gone back and forth whether he's a mutant or not. Which I'm for Team Mutant because I personally really like Cloak, and
Right. Same.
so they should do that again. But
That's kind of how I always, even when they kind of flip flop on that, I kind of just ignore it. They're mutants.
You know what I'm saying? Wanda was another one before she was retconned. She might get retconned back to being a mutant again. So it was like, her mutant power isn't magic; it's reality warping, and she just does magic on the side. But
Mhm.
that's interesting to know. Do you have any teams? Like, do you want Darkstar on Krakoa? Do you want to like see her continue with the Winter Guard? Should she be an Avenger?
I would love for her to be able to like pull double duty with the Winter Guard, and then um, I don't know. She actually, now that I think about it, she probably can't even be on the Winter Guard anymore. It's probably time for her to leave that
You think?
because if she's always going to be on that team and tied to that, she'll always be stuck only coming in for like a random issue here or there, or like a let's get the champions back together kind of thing. So I think it might be time for her to leave, and maybe someone else can fill the role of the powerful girl on the Winter Guard while she goes off and maybe does something else. Because I
Okay.
do think she's a pretty interesting character, and her powers are cool. She's got an interesting background. Her brother is a mutant, and he idolized Red Guardian, and so
Mhm.
like the Red Guardian was the one he kind of replaced. So he wants to be like a superhero too. I think they've got a cool story.
Depending on what they do in the MCU with Yelena as the White Widow, we could see the Winter Guard pop up.
Actually, in that same movie, Ursa Major, who is like the werebear, I think that's how you
The Bear.
pronounce his kind of powers. He was in the movie already too, so
Yeah,
it's
I know.
very easy
He
for the Winter Guard to
did
come.
you see it? He like posted something on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. He was talking about how he is the first mutant in the MCU.
Child. You better claim it. You know what?
I was like, I love
Claim it.
it.
Claim
For
it.
those who don't know, Ursa Major is a mutant. He can turn into a bear.
Yes. And is an alcoholic, but
Very heavily.
can turn into a bear.
Which it's a very nasty stereotype that they give to a lot of the Russian characters because they made Colossus an alcoholic for a little bit too.
See, I don't like that.
It's like, but though I was so for those who don't know, I used to work at the International Spy Museum in my younger years here in DC, and we
That's
met a
so
lot of.
cool. Of course you did.
And so we would actually like come in contact with a lot of intelligence officers and people who talked in the field. And so there was this one guy who was telling me about when he was stationed out in Russia. He was like, it was this thunderstorm, and him and the Russians are in this blimp, and they're like drinking and talking, whatever. So they're like, oh, we're gonna go jumping. They're gonna go jumping out of airplanes during a thunderstorm, and so they get into this plane. He's telling us the story. He says they get into this plane. They put his parachute on him, and then they're like, "All right, jump." And so he jumps. And so he says it's not until after he jumps that he sits there and he starts thinking. He's like, "I'm an American intelligence agent here sent by my country to kind of like investigate and watch these Russians." And like they have been drinking and I just jumped out of a plane. He's like, this parachute could be empty. He was like, he's like, this is all after he jumped. So he's like, but then he says,
After he
he
thought
pulls
about
his
that, after he jumped.
he said he thought about it after he jumped. And so he's like, but finally, he pulls his thing. He said the parachute comes out, he lands safely. None of the other Russians jump out. He's like, they finally landed. They're like laughing at him and stuff. But he says this is what they did. He said they drank and they jumped out of planes.
I mean, that kind of sounds fun. Why not be a
So
little adventurous? A little reckless, but maybe fun.
so that was the thing. Maybe that's where that comes from. But that's dope.
So yeah,
But do you
Darkstar is great.
have
She's had some pretty cool moments before she's gone out into space. The character Quasar, who we've seen in Guardians of the Galaxy. Um,
Mhm.
he was doing this like random cosmic mission and needed powerful characters. He brought up Spectrum. He also brought up Darkstar and her brother Vanguard. The
Okay.
bad news is during the mission, Vanguard died, and actually don't know how he got resurrected, but whatever. He died, and Darkstar and her dad swore vengeance on Quasar and like went out to go kill him. And
Oh
the
wow.
fight got so bad that and Quasar kind of understood that he got himself out of there and made them believe that like they did kill him. She's not one to mess with, especially when it comes to her family. So I think that it would be interesting to see them back around.
I was gonna say, do you think if she saw him alive again, it would be a problem?
I don't think so, because Quasar, you mean?
Yes.
Maybe not, because she has her brother back. But
I'll be like, I don't know, the disrespect is real.
That's true.
We're just gonna have to fight every time we see each other.
They may have to square up the next time, Quasar is back on Earth.
I'm here for it. Him and obviously she gotta fight Phantom X.
Well, yeah.
Any excuse for Phantom X to pop back up.
I'm fine with that because I don't like him, so she can end him.
He'll kill her again. Show him on
it. All right, so that's all I really want to talk about with Darkstar. I hope you guys really enjoyed this new character to you, or if you have known her before, it's time for her to come back. Check her out in that Winter Guard #1. I'm sure we'll see even more of her in that miniseries. So let's take a break, and then we'll come right back.
All right. This is like 3 relaunches in a row.
I know, right?
That's like a new record for us.
Back with a bang.
Back with a bang. All right, everybody. We are back for everyone's favorite part of the show, the relaunch section. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
You know what? I can go first.
Okay. Tell us who you're relaunching.
So the character I would like to relaunch is a character I just talked about, and that is Darkstar. And I think that there's a lot of potential for her there. As many Dark Force characters as there aren't too many of them who are actually like actively using it. And she uses it in really cool ways. I think she'd be dope. And I actually would put her on either an Uncanny Avengers team. And she's kind of like the Winter Guard, kind of like an Avengers team-ish, like the Russian Avengers. Yeah. So I could see her over there with like an Uncanny Avengers team, an Avengers team. Or I would have her come to Krakoa and have her put herself up for nomination to be on the X-Men.
Ooh.
And join the X-Men. I think she'd be a lot of fun. Because why not?
I think
she'd be like the Sunfire.
Yeah, I can definitely see that for her. I enjoy both of those for her. I think personally, I lean more to the Avengers side, just because, like you said, the Winter Guard is kind of basically Russia's Avengers, so she feels more fit for that world. But also, I think the idea of finally seeing her on Krakoa and like interacting with mutants and getting all of that stuff in there would be very nice. We haven't really seen her do that outside of those Grant Morrison new X-Men issues, and again, she dies when Phantom X kills her.
Exactly.
So
you ain't gotta bring the Phantom X up part. But I would definitely move far away from the Winter Guard.
Would you give her a new costume?
Yes.
Or would you kind of keep the whole black?
It's
time. All right.
Some of the motif of it all, get the colors, that kind of stuff. But it's time for a new design.
Okay, I'm into it. So with that, my relaunch of the week is a team that I really love and is dear and near to my heart for those who don't know, and that is the Ultimates.
Okay.
So, yes. Yeah. For those who know, hopefully you know by now, the Ultimates was a team written by Al Ewing. They had 2 iterations. Well, they had 2 comic series, not iterations. It was the same people in both one. But basically, they were they were Carol's team a little bit, and they were stopping some cosmic type of threats. They did things in Civil War II, which was Carol's event.
I really didn't feel like this was Carol's team.
No, it was definitely Carol's team. And like they were following her, like everything. I feel like in the beginning, it kind of was a mix of everybody, like because a lot of stuff we got was dealing with Blue Marvel and like the Man and all that stuff.
I remember Black Panther did a lot of stuff.
He talked a lot, but he didn't really he wasn't that important. He talked a lot. And we saw America kind of like teleporting through portals and stuff like that, but it definitely Carol was kind of running the show, and this team ran after what she did and what she felt was right and like getting stuff together. In my new iteration, Carol is not there. So I will say, I will say that in my relaunch version of the Ultimates, I would still kind of like to see them take on the scope of dealing with things, not necessarily just within space, but like how they were dealing with things in the timeline and just different universes. Because again, Marvel has been putting a lot of emphasis on those things and how they're kind of affecting our world. I don't necessarily want them traveling to all these universes, but again, I would like to see repercussions of what's going on there and how it's affecting the main 616, and that's what this team deals with. You're also going to get some magic in there because the leader of this team.
You had me.
Losing you? Am I? Because again, magic is something that has had a very big effect on not only reality but everyone in this world. I think about, just like Wanda, no more mutants, which is more her reality warping and not necessarily magic. But again, she's affected Doctor Strange, things that he's done and come around. So this team would be doing that because the leader of this version of the Ultimates is Doctor Doom.
Oh, okay, wow. All right, I'm into it.
Right. So, this team, I would still keep it very small, but one of the things that I would like to do from it is I would like to pull from a lot of different corners of the Marvel Universe to, again, emphasize how this team is kind of everywhere, and they are like researching everything and how things affect it. So, roster this is Doom leading, and these are all people who he picks himself for whatever reasons. You would have Doctor Doom, Blue Marvel, and Spectrum return because you have to have some type of connection to the original team. Blue Marvel's a scientific genius. He also has his own little Nexus world. Spectrum, she's that girl. You gotta have her in there. I would bring in Beta Ray Bill onto this team as well to hit from the Asgard universe and the magic and things that happen there that affect, because Thor is too busy. So I would add Cersei to this team as well to pull from the Eternals corner of the world and everything that goes on there, because they have lived forever, so she has a bunch of knowledge of things that happen. And last but not least on this team would be Captain Britain.
Of course. I love it.
Because what else are you gonna do? But you got Otherworld and you got the magic, and then you need somebody from the mutant corner to come on over and help things. So and he's gonna pop up in Excalibur soon, and they have history. So it's like, why wouldn't you ask her? But yeah, that is your new Ultimates team, just exploring everything magic, Otherworlds. Dr. Doom's leading. You got Captain Britain, you got Blue Marvel, you got Spectrum, you got Beta Ray Bill, and you got Cersei.
I would read it. I'd check it out. I know it's magic, but like Spectrum got me, so I mean.
You love
I also think I like Spectrum and Blue Marvel as a couple. I need to like go back and read more of them, but I think I really like them as a couple.
They're fantastic.
I think Blue Marvel by himself is a little boring, but I think like them together, I like them as a couple.
Anyways, I will say I remember when it was first kind of like happening, I was a little grossed out about it. I actually like saw some of my old tweets and I was like, please don't let this couple happen. But again, that is just the genius of Al Ewing. He really made it work as we saw it progress from like when they were Mighty Avengers through the Ultimates to everything that came after, and how I really miss them. I want to see them back together.
Yeah,
like maybe doing something
soon on the big screen or something. Who knows? All right, y'all. So that brings us to the end of the show. Please make sure you check us out and rate and subscribe wherever you see us on your podcast. You can check us out on Twitter at Another Relaunch. You can find us on Instagram also at Another Relaunch. If you want to watch the show, you can see it on YouTube at Another Relaunch TV. You can send in any questions or concerns to anotherrelaunch@gmail.com. And by the way, next week we are going to be doing a reread of is it Batman Under the Red Hood or just Under the Red Hood?
It's Batman Under the Red Hood. We're going to be reading that, and we're also going to be watching the movie, the animated film. So join
boom. Yes. All right, y'all. You can find me on all social media platforms at Uncanny LZ. Keenan, where can they find you?
You guys know you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Keenan Lance, and there's an underscore at the end.
Boom. All right. Let's get up out of here, and we will see y'all next week.
All right. See you next week.